Hello again. Today we have an Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra with a Co-Axial escapement. This watch is running a little bit slow but has some cosmetic issues. The crystal is really scratched up and there is a lot of debris inside the watch, as you can see on the dial, as well as the case and bracelet being quite scratched up too. So this watch is going to have a full service of the movement, a refinish of the case and bracelet, and the debris has got to be removed. If you're interested, this watch will be available for sale on my eBay page, linked in the description, and while you're down there, check out my website if you want your watch serviced. We start the disassembly by removing the bracelet, opening the case, removing the case back, taking out the movement ring and removing the crown. Then we turn the case over and gently let the movement out onto the case cushion. The crown can then be put back in and the hands aligned. Then the hands are removed with hand levers and secured. The dial feet are released using these screws. The dial can then be taken off and secured. And it looks like someone's left some fibres in here from a previous service. The hour wheel and dial spacer are removed, and the movement is turned over and secured to a movement holder. This allows the automatic works to be taken off safely and disassembled. First, the rotor is removed, then this cover plate, exposing the wheels of the automatic works. They're placed securely to one side and back to the movement to let down the mainspring. Then, to remove the balance. And you can see the coaxial escapement with the pallet fork and 2 escape wheels. Now, there's a bit of a technical with the rest of the disassembly with my new camera. I didn't actually click record, sorry. You'll see everything when the watch is reassembled though, don't worry. By this point I have stripped down the rest of the movement and am now taking the mainspring out of the going barrel. The excess oil all over the going barrel was true for the entire movement. The teeth of the wheels, in between the bridges, it was all covered in oil, which is really not good. And here is the whole movement disassembled, which you'll see put back together. For the cleaning, the larger and dirtier components will be pre-cleaned by hand. The pre-cleaning involves soaking the components in isopropyl alcohol, and then the dirt is scrubbed off with a brush. After the surface dirt is removed, each of the pivot holes are pegged out to ensure that they're completely clean too. Then all the small components are placed into baskets, and the whole lot are ultrasonically cleaned, except for the balance of pallet fork, which are cleaned by hand. Whilst the cleaning machine is working away, let's turn our attention to the case and bracelet. The crystal and gasket are removed. The bezel and gasket are removed. I'm not going to polish the case back, so that will just be cleaned, whereas the bezel, case and bracelet will be polished and brushed after cleaning. You can see the left hand side of the bracelet has only been cleaned, but the right hand side has already had its brushing reapplied. This will be done for all the brushed facets of the case and the entire bracelet. With the brushing done, it's time for some polishing. The lugs are taped up so only the sweeping lyre lugs receive the polish. The first polish does most of the work. The second polish removes some of the smaller marks. The third polish gets rid of all but the finest of marks, and the final polish gives it a real shine. And there's the case after having had another clean. And the case can now be put back together with a new greased bezel gasket, and the bezel can just be pressed back on, along with a brand new sapphire crystal. A new crystal has been used here because, as you can see, the original one was scratched to pieces. Here is the entire movement cleaned and ready for reassembly. We're going to start with putting the new mainspring in the going barrel. To do this, the walls of the going barrel are lubricated with Mobius 2817, a braking grease that allows the automatic mainspring to slip when nearly at full wind, preventing the watch from being overwound by the automatic works. Then, the new mainspring is pressed into the going barrel. A drop of HB 1300. Then the barrel arbor is reinstalled. Another drop of HB 1300 at the top of the arbor. The barrel arbor lid is pressed back on, and both ends of the barrel arbor are given a little more HB 1300. We're going to reassemble the underside of the barrel bridge now. First, we apply HB 1300 to the friction points. Then we put in the crown wheel, the intermediate crown wheel, the intermediate ratchet wheel, this cover plate that holds the click spring. The click spring is lubricated with HB 1300 and inserted underneath the cover plate. Then the ratchet driving wheel is rested in its place. Next, the main plate is secured to a movement holder and checked to be perfectly clean. The first component to go back in is the intermediate escape wheel, then the third wheel. The pinion of the second wheel is oiled, then the second wheel is installed, along with the intermediate wheel. Ignore that I accidentally put in the train wheel bridge early, I'll take that back off in a second. After that, the going barrel and the ratchet wheel are put back in. Then the third wheel is moved out of the way and the barrel bridge is put back into place and secured. The third wheel can then be put back in position and the train wheel bridge put back on. The free running of the wheels are tested and the train wheel bridge is secured tight. Then the rest of the barrel bridge screws are installed too. Then the movement is turned over, the winding pinion is put back into place and Mobius 9501 grease is placed on the ratcheting teeth. The sliding pinion is put into place, the stem is greased and inserted into the main plate. The ratcheting teeth of the sliding pinion are greased, along with a slot in the sliding pinion. These posts are oiled with HB 1300. The date corrector operating lever is put in, the setting lever is greased and put in, along with the yoke. The friction points are greased. After that, the setting lever spring is put back into place, and the keyless works are checked to make sure they're all engaging correctly, along with a little more grease. The movement is turned back over to install the escapement. The coaxial escape wheel and pallet forks are installed, then secured with the cover plate. And both the screws are only done up fully once the pivots are definitely in their jewel holes. Whilst we have access, the coaxial escape wheel is oiled with Mobius 9010. The balance can then be reinstalled, making sure that there is plenty of room for the two impulse jewels to engage with the pallet fork. And thankfully it appears to be working well. Now for some oiling. We will start with the shock setting on the balance, removing the shock setting and cap jewel. Whilst they're soaking in isopropyl alcohol, we will oil the rest of the pivot holes on this side of the movement. After a few minutes, the cap jewels are cleaned and checked to be completely clean. Then a drop of Mobius 9010 is placed in the middle of the end stone, and the shock setting is put on top. Then they're put back in the movement. This is repeated on the front of the movement. The jewels are being removed for cleaning. Then the other pivot holes are oiled. A drop of Mobius 9010 and back together. Then they're put back in the movement. Next we're going to reassemble the automatic works. The reversing wheel is treated with V105 and dried. The friction points are oiled. The intermediate reduction wheel is installed. Then the reduction wheel, the reversing wheel, the reverser. Then they're all secured with the automatic works cover plate. The jewel holes are oiled. Then the rotor is reattached. Now time to reinstall the motion works. The post for the setting wheel is oiled with HB 1300, then the wheel is installed. And then the post for the intermediate setting wheel is oiled, then the wheel is installed. The hole for the date corrector is oiled and then installed. The cannon pinion with the driving wheel is greased, just where they rub up against each other. The post for the cannon pinion is oiled, then the cannon pinion with driving wheel is put on its post. The minute wheel post and support is oiled, and the wheel put on. Then the keyless work plate is installed. We will reinstall the calendar works, cleaning the teeth on the date wheel, installing it, oiling the calendar wheel pivot, and installing the calendar wheel. The intermediate calendar wheel post is oiled, the date jumper spring is put into position, the date wheel maintaining plate is installed. Then the date jumper spring can be set and the cover plate installed. The date jumper spring also needs to be oiled with HB 1300. To give an even coverage to the date wheel teeth, it is oiled 3 times, advancing the date wheel about 10 days each time. The cannon pinion is oiled, and the hour wheel replaced. Now the dial can be put back on, and secured with the dial feet screws. The movement can be set so that the date has just clicked over, meaning that it's showing at midnight. Then the hour hand can be placed pointing at the 12 o'clock position, then secured using the hand press. The minute hand is gently pressed on and aligned at 12 o'clock and pressed down to secure it in place, and the same is done for the seconds hand. It is only the slightest press down to secure the seconds hand. At this point, the watch case is reassembled, taking the crown out of the movement and greasing the new gasket. This is to do a water pressure test. The case is tested to 5 bar, which is equivalent to the depth of about 50 metres, and the case passes the test. It is dried and prepared to receive the movement, such as removing any fibres or debris that may have made their way into the case, especially on the inside of the crystal. The case is placed over the movement and turned over so the movement falls into place. The stem is reinstalled into the movement, the hack lever is installed, and the automatic works are installed, applying a little pressure and winding the crown to make sure that the wheels mesh correctly. The automatic works are secured with 3 screws. This post is oiled for the auxiliary reverser wheel that couples the rotor to the automatic works. Next, the movement ring is reinstalled, 2 clamps on the movement and 3 clamps holding it steady in the case. The case back is put on, along with the refinished bracelet. And there we go, one fully serviced and refinished Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra with a co-axial escapement. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. If you would like your watch serviced, my website is linked in the description. And I have some watches for sale, including this one, on my eBay page, linked in the description too. Thank you all very much for watching, and see you again soon. Bye for now.